When Medusa took the crown, even the gods begged for mercy. This is not the tale of a monster hiding in shadows, nor the story of a hero triumphing over evil. This is the moment when Medusa turned her curse into a weapon, when the victor became the conqueror, and Olympus itself trembled under her gaze. You've heard the old myth. A maiden punished by Athena transformed into a creature with snakes for hair and eyes that turned men to stone. But what if Medusa chose not to cower, not to wait for death at the hands of Perseus or any hero, but instead seized the power that had been forced upon her? Imagine the one they called a monster walking into the halls of the gods, each step echoing with defiance, each serpent hissing with vengeance. This is a story where the crown does not belong to Zeus, nor to Athena, but to the woman they tried to erase. If you want to discover more stories that change everything you thought you knew, subscribe now, leave a like, and tell us in the comments what fate you would have given Medusa. And now, enter the world where the gods beg for mercy, and Medusa never looked away. Long before her name became a curse whispered across the seas, Medusa was known as a woman of striking beauty and quiet strength. Her hair was said to shine like black silk in the sun, her eyes deep as the ocean, her laughter a sound that warmed the coldest hearts. She served in Athena's temple with devotion, believing herself chosen, safe, and untouchable. But faith in the god is fragile, and beauty often draws envy. On one fateful night, the temple became her prison, and her life was stolen by the cruelty of Poseidon and the wrath of Athena. The maiden was gone, replaced by the monster. Or, so the world believed. What if that was never the end, but only the beginning? She awoke to her new reflection with terror. Serpents writhing where her hair once flowed, a gaze that froze life itself. At first, she hid, trembling in the shadows of her exile, mourning the face she could never touch again. Yet the cries of those who hunted her never ceased, men chasing glory, kings seeking trophies, each one reduced a statue by her despair. And in every stone face that fell at her feet, Medusa saw not only loss, but possibility. What if her curse was not punishment, but destiny? Whispers spread quickly. Villagers spoke of a creature lurking in caves, her eyes burning like twin suns. Priests declared her an abomination, a lesson carved into flesh for all who would anger the gods. But fear has a way of turning into fascination, and fascination into legend. Statues of warriors stood eerily lifelike in fields, their swords forever raised, their mouths frozen mid-breath. To some, it was terror. To Medusa, it was an army. If stone could stand, stone could serve. She was no longer prey. She was becoming something far more dangerous. Still, the memory of Athena's betrayal burned hotter than the venom of her snakes. Each hiss reminded her of the injustice carved into her soul. Punished for what she never chose, cursed for what was forced upon her. In the silence of her exile, she began to dream not of freedom, but of retribution. She imagined walking into the shining halls of Olympus, not as a servant, not as a victim, but as a queen crowned by fear. And for the first time since her transformation, she no longer wept, she smiled. The gods had given her a weapon, and one day she would use it. The world above still believed Medusa was doomed, a tragic figure awaiting her end at the hands of a hero. But beneath the surface, a storm was forming. Each hunter who entered her lair and left as stone was not just another warning. It was practice. Each gaze sharpened her power. Each death tested her resolve. And when the night was still, she whispered to the statues around her, calling them her sentinels, her guardians. The gods thought they had written her ending. They were wrong. A monster does not beg for mercy. A monster learns to make others beg instead. The years of hiding had taught Medusa something unexpected: patience. She no longer fled from the footsteps of intruders. Instead, she let them come. Heroes with shining armor and God's blessings marched into her caves, chanting their victories before they were won. One by one, their voices turned to silence, their bodies to stone, their pride frozen mid-strike. The walls of her lair became a gallery of failure. Each figure reminded that the gods had underestimated her. What began as defense grew into strategy, and soon the so-called monster had an army that would never betray her. Yet the more statues she gathered, the more she began to wonder, were these warriors truly hers, or had she become theirs? At night, Medusa spoke to them. She gave the statues names, histories, roles in her imagined court. The once cursed cavern echoed with the whispers of her new kingdom. A soldier's raised spear marked the entrance. A king's frozen crown stood as a throne. But one evening, as the moonlight crawled across a petrified face, she noticed something chilling. The eyes of stone no longer seemed empty. Shadows lingered within them, as though a fragment of soul remained, trapped and listening. Instead of recoiling, Medusa smiled. Perhaps she was not alone after all. Perhaps these warriors still served, even in silence. Her legend spread beyond villages and kingdoms, reaching the ears of Olympus itself. At first, the gods laughed. To them, Medusa was a blemish, a punishment set loose upon mortals, a reminder of divine wrath. Yet laughter turned to unease when reports grew stranger. Entire battalions sent to slay her never returned. Temples collapsed, statues lined the countryside, and whispers of the Gorgon queen began to rise. Even Zeus, lord of thunder, frowned at the idea that mortals now fear Medusa more than the gods themselves. And in their halls, the first seeds of doubt were planted. What if they had created not a monster, but a rival? Meanwhile, Medusa began to test the limits of her power. Her gaze did not merely freeze flesh and bone. It shaped landscapes. Fields turned to barren stone when her anger spread unchecked. Rivers hardened into gray veins, their waters trapped in eternal stillness. She no longer waited for hunters. She lured them, leaving trails of broken statues to guide the bold directly to her. Yet the real twist was not in the death she brought, but in the life she was creating. Her serpents whispered secrets at night, visions of crowns, empires, and thrones. She began to see herself not as cursed, but as chosen. Still, shadows of fear lingered in her heart. She remembered Perseus, the name whispered by oracles as the one destined to end her. Each day, she imagined the hero's sword descending, her head severed and paraded before the gods. But destiny was only a chain if she allowed it to be. With every statue that joined her court, she asked herself the same question. Why should she wait to be hunted when she could strike first? The world believed her reign limited to shadows and caves. Soon, they would learn that stone could climb mountains, and even gods could fall silent. The gods had grown restless. No longer content with sending mortals to their doom, Athena herself descended, shield in hand, determined to finish what she had begun. She entered Medusa's cavern with a cold smile, her polished armor gleaming as though mocking the darkness around her. "Your story ends tonight," she declared, raising the shield that once reflected countless enemies. But Medusa was not the terrified maiden who had wept beneath that goddess's shadow. She stepped forward, serpents hissing in unison, and whispered, "No, tonight it begins." When their gazes clashed, the ground itself split. The shield, once thought unbreakable, cracked under the weight of Medusa's stare. Lightning struck the cavern walls as Athena staggered, her divine composure faltering for the first time. Medusa laughed, a sound raw and defiant, echoing like thunder across the cliffs. The statues around her seemed to lean closer, as though drawn to her triumph. For centuries, mortals had feared the wrath of gods. Now they would whisper the day a mortal-turned-monster broke Olympus's pride. Yet even as Athena faltered, another presence emerged from the sea, dark and furious. Poseidon himself had come to claim his victim once more. The god of the sea rose like a storm, trident in hand, waves crashing behind him. "Creature," he roared, "your curse was mine to give, and your death will be mine to savor." But Medusa did not kneel. Her snakes writhed like flames, her eyes burning brighter than the ocean's depths. In a moment that silenced the waves, she turned her gaze upon him. The unthinkable happened. Poseidon, lord of storms, froze mid-strike, his body solidifying into stone, his rage captured forever in silence. A hush fell across the cavern as Athena stared in disbelief. A god had fallen, not by blade, but by the eyes of the one they had cursed. In that silence, Medusa reached the crown Athena once wore, a circle of divine authority that gleamed with golden fire. She placed it upon her head, her serpents coiling around it as if claiming it as their own. The air thickened. charged with power, as statues of mortals and gods alike bowed in eerie unison. The cavern was no longer a prison. It was a throne room. Medusa, crowned not by mercy but by vengeance, stood tall as the first mortal to turn Olympus itself into stone. And with each breath, her resolve hardened. The gods would no longer rule unchallenged. But victory birthed something darker. As Athena trembled, still unpetrified, she whispered words not of threat, but of fear. If even Poseidon has fallen, who among us is safe? Medusa's smile held no warmth, only a chilling promise. No one. The statue seemed to echo her words in the silence, and for the first time in eternity, a goddess's voice broke in prayer, not to heavens, but to the monster before her. Olympus had witnessed many battles, but never had its gods begged, and this was only the beginning of their terror. The halls of Olympus no longer shone with golden fire. Columns that once held the sky now stood frozen, veins of stone creeping across their marble flesh. Gods who had ruled unchallenged for millennia became monuments of their own fear, their eyes wide in silent screams, their hands raised in futile defense. Where Zeus's throne once glimmered with lightning, there now sat Medusa, crowned in serpents and shadows, her stare commanding a kingdom of silence. She had not just survived her curse. She had mastered it, wielded it, and turned it upon those who thought themselves eternal. The age of gods had ended, and the reign of stone had begun. Mortals whispered the tale in trembling awe. Villages prayed not to Zeus or Athena, but to the Gorgon queen who had been divinity to her will. Temples once dedicated to Olympus crumbled, their altars defaced, replaced with offerings to Medusa. Children were warned to lower their eyes when her shadow passed across the mountains. Yet beneath the terror lay something deeper, fascination. For the first time, mortals saw a god who had once been one of them, a woman betrayed, cursed, and abandoned, who rose above her fate and made the heavens bow. And some wondered if her victory was not vengeance, but justice. But power is never still. Each night, Medusa heard her statues whisper in the wind, voices of warriors and gods caught forever in her gaze. Some begged for release, others for revenge, and still others pledged loyalty to their new queen. Their voices grew louder, a chorus of stone demanding direction, pressing her toward battles beyond Olympus itself. Perhaps the crown had not been taken, but chosen her instead. Perhaps power was not hers to hold, but hunger that would consume her as surely as it consumed the gods. And Medusa, once victim, once queen, began to wonder if she had become something far worse. Still, the world trembled at her silence. No hero rose, no sword was lifted, no prophecy fulfilled. The fates themselves dared not weave a new destiny, for fear her eyes might find them in their shadows. And yet, even in her triumph, there lingered a question that no prayer, no offering, no whisper could answer. If Medusa could unmake Olympus, what would stop her from unmaking the world? A curse had become an empire, but empires always demand more, and Medusa had never learned to stop taking. So the story ends not with a hero's victory, but with gods turned to stone and a queen crowned in vengeance. The victim had become the ruler, and the world itself held its breath, waiting for her next move. Perhaps mercy would return, perhaps ruin would spread. But either way, Medusa had rewritten the fate that Olympus tried to force upon her. And in the silence of eternity, only one truth remained. Even the gods begged for mercy. If this dark retelling left you speechless, make sure to subscribe for more stories that turn legends upside down. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. What fate would you give a Medusa? And if you want to support us in creating even more of these twisted reimaginings, consider becoming a channel member today. More revelations are on the way, and you won't want to miss the next one.